My name is Camila, and in October 2004 I moved into a small semi-detached house in the suburbs with my 10-year-old daughter, Isabella. It was a modest 2-story home on a quiet street. I had just gotten a remote job, and this was our chance to start over after a rough divorce. Autumn had stripped the trees bare, and the wind pushed dry leaves against the windows constantly. The house next door, attached to ours on the right, had been vacant since before we moved in. The realtor told me no one had lived there for months. Still, from the very first night, Isabella claimed to hear footsteps from that shared wall. I told her it was probably just the wind or the house settling. But it always happened at night. Always the same sounds, soft footsteps like a child's, and sometimes faint muffled laughter. That night it was raining. Isabella was asleep upstairs and I was working in my home office right against the shared wall. Around 9 p.m, I heard a dry knock, loud and close, almost like someone or something had hit the wall from the other side. I stood up and pressed my ear to the wall. Silence. Only the rain. But just as I turned to go back to my laptop, I heard it again. 3 knocks. Slow. And then a whisper. I froze for a moment, staring at the wall. That couldn't have been real, I thought. Just my imagination. But then it happened again. 3 knocks, louder this time, and a whisper, clearer now. But it no longer came from the wall. It was upstairs. I called for Isabella, trying to keep my voice calm. No answer. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step groaning like the house was holding its breath. The hallway light was off, and the only illumination came from a sliver under her bedroom door. When I opened it, she was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, covers pulled to her chin. "There's a girl in my closet," she said, pointing with a trembling finger. My heart raced. I walked to the closet, swallowing fear, and threw the doors open. Nothing. Just coats, stuffed animals, the usual. I turned to her, now crying, and hugged her tight. I told her it was just a nightmare, but just as I turned off the light, we heard a sound downstairs, the front door creaking open. I rushed down, but no one was there. The front door stood wide open. Rain soaked the carpet. I looked outside. Empty porch, empty yard. Then I noticed something else. The door to the supposedly vacant house next door was open too. Wide open. I slammed both doors shut, ours and the neighbours', and locked them tight. That night, I had Isabella sleep in my bed. She trembled under the covers, whispering that the girl in the closet was angry. I asked her why. "Because we locked her on the wrong side," she replied. I tried to stay calm. I stroked her hair until she finally drifted off to sleep, but I couldn't. My eyes stayed open, ears alert. That's when the sounds returned. First, hurried footsteps upstairs, then a toy rolled across the wooden floor, and then the whistle. Soft, slow, coming from the hallway. I stood up with my phone, keeping the lights off. I tiptoed to the hallway. The whistle stopped and was replaced by a whisper. Right by my ear, like someone was leaning in from behind. She's with me now. I spun around, but no one was there. I ran back to the bedroom, and the bed was empty. Isabella was gone. The window was closed. The door too. Then I heard it. The closet doors creaking open, again, as if being pushed from the inside. I approached slowly, heart pounding. opened the doors, and there was Isabella, sitting, smiling. But something in her eyes wasn't her. Isabella stared at me with a strangely peaceful smile. Her eyes, once vibrant brown, were dull, like something inside had dimmed. I said her name, reached for her, but as I got close she turned to the dark corner of the closet and whispered, "You shouldn't have woken her." A shiver shot down my spine. I scooped her into my arms and took her back to the bed. She didn't resist. She just watched me, like I was someone she no longer recognized. I didn't sleep at all. The next day I took her to my sister's house and said it was just for the weekend. I needed to figure out what was happening. I came back alone. In daylight everything seemed normal until I entered the office. The shared wall with the neighbor's house looked stained. I stepped closer. It wasn't a stain, it was writing. Scrawled in what looked like charcoal or ash, the name Adelina covered the wall. Over and over, different sizes, different childlike handwriting. I crouched to inspect it and saw a tiny hole near the baseboard. I leaned in and looked. An eye stared back. I fell back in shock, hitting my head. When I looked again, the hole had been sealed from the other side, as if she knew I'd seen her. And in that exact moment, I heard Isabella calling me from downstairs, but I was alone. Isabella's voice echoed softly, gentle, sweet, but she was miles away with my sister, and yet that voice was hers, identical. I stepped carefully down the stairs. Everything looked untouched, but then I saw it. The back door, which had been locked the night before, now cracked open. The wind fluttered the curtains. A rotten, earthy smell filled the air. I stepped outside and looked across at the neighbour's house. Every window was wide open, and in the upper bedroom window stood a child, still, watching me. Without thinking, I walked into the open door of the vacant unit. Inside, it was like time had stopped. Furniture under sheets, dust floating in the air, yet nothing felt abandoned, more like preserved. I climbed the stairs. The whistle started again, louder, clearer, at the end of the hallway. First room, empty. Second, silent. Third, everything changed. The layout was a mirror of Isabella's room, and on the bed, arranged carefully, were old porcelain dolls, all wearing the same dress, pale blue with lace collars. Each had a name stitched on the chest. The last one in the corner read, Isabella. I couldn't move. That final doll, the one with Isabella's name, looked newer than the others, as if it had just been added to the collection. Then the closet door creaked, slowly. A dense, cold air swept through the room, a mix of mould and decay. I stepped back. Inside, I saw two tiny hands emerge, pale, childlike. Then, a face, just like Isabella's, but twisted, as if seen through a warped mirror. She smiled and said in Isabella's exact voice, "Now we just need you, Mummy." I bolted, ran down the stairs, out the door, slammed it shut, called my sister, told her to take Isabella anywhere, far away. I never returned to that street. 2 days later, the neighbour's house caught fire. No one was inside, no gas leak, no electrical fault. The fire report said the origin point was the upstairs bedroom, the one with the dolls. Today, Isabella is 30. She never talks about Adelina, but some nights, while she sleeps, I still hear her whistling that same melody. And when I look closely into her eyes, sometimes I know it's not really her.